Alright everyone, we appear to have entered a new stage of the war in Ukraine. Russia appears to have acquired a large number of Iranian drones and has been using them for kamikaze strikes in Kiev. Now, at first I wondered why you would ram the drone packed with explosives into something when the drone could always fire a missile at the target. And then I got to thinking, could it be that the Iranian targeting systems aren't as beefy as the ones in the West? And Russia's like, well, half of these are going to get blown out of the sky anyway. We'll fly them in under the radar and just blow them up next to the target. And it's a lot cheaper than normal kamikaze missions like a la World War II. A drone costs a lot less to make and can be made in larger numbers more quickly than, a fighter jet or something like that, and you don't lose a pilot. So it sort of makes, I guess, economic sense. When you resort, though, to kamikaze warfare, even if you're using a drone, it doesn't sound like an admission that things are going particularly well logistically. We have seen, and they've self-admitted to some of this. Some of it's just Ukraine's and like NATO countries' legacy media hyperbole. It's propaganda. We've got tacit admissions, though, from Russia. Their rolling out of the partial mobilization was botched. They apologized for this. They acknowledged that they were gaining Iranian drones, and Iranian drones are good. There's a reason why other people want to buy them, I guess. But it doesn't, following what's been happening over the last month or so, it doesn't really look that good for Moscow. And I guess the worry is that they'll, put a radiological weapon on a drone, oh my god, and then blow it up in Kiev and irradiate people. I don't think that will happen, but it is worrisome that they're willing to take, relatively expensive drones and completely wreck them just to hit a silo or something like that. And the targets are different. Government buildings, some of them have blown up in civilian areas, although, with modern city design, the embassy or the office or the important factory might be in proximity to civilian homes. And if you blow up an oil refinery and it goes off with an explosion, it's probably going to rain down some carnage on surrounding areas. Let's hope that they decide to move the important industry away from population centers, I suppose. I do believe this story, though. Oftentimes, when I see a report, and it doesn't matter whether it's from West or East Bloc reporting, so RT and BBC to me are fucking the same thing, the same amount of propaganda. It just depends on what they're saying that's propagandistic and what side they weigh in favor on. Normally, when I look at anything regarding stories that pertain to a war, not just Ukraine, Iraq comes to mind, Afghanistan, Syria, anything like that, I ignore the news. Normally, I would look at a report like this and say, okay, they're claiming, they claim that a drone came out of the sky with an explosive and shattered some homes. I do believe this particular story, though, because it fits in logically with what we've seen and can verify, including from Russia itself. When you get that cross-verification, there's a reason for it with regards to the war there. Overall, things are not going terribly well for Russia at this particular time. They didn't mobilize for no reason. They wouldn't be conducting this sort of attack for no reason. The West is continuing to respond economically. I think that Russia's also, at some point, if Putin's sane, he might pull back anyway because Ukraine will be so heavily armed it'll be a goddamn powder keg waiting to blow up in the entire region's face. That's possible. It's the hope, of course, is you get some sort of negotiation. The problem is that the United States isn't trying to cause that to happen. The Turks are taking the fore on it. Erdogan is going to be the one hosting Putin at a bilateral summit in a few days. It's very interesting to me. The U.S. pretends that it's such a major war effort. We must do everything to help Ukraine. This is effectively our fight, which, it's not even technically a proxy war, but they're treating it as though we're on the front lines and constantly urging us to get more involved as well. And yet you're not willing to try to secure any form of peace agreement, with the U.S. helping to broker that. You've claimed to be an interested party in the war. Why are you not taking the diplomatic fore? Is it because the two top people in the United States are out to lunch? Biden can't do diplomacy. Send him over to talk to Putin. See what happens. It'll be hilarious. If Kamala went over, it'd somehow be worse. Who are you going to send? Pete Buttigieg? Just send Henry Kissinger over there. That'd be really, really funny. And probably, ironically enough, it'd probably lead to better things than sending Joey. I believe the report. And the problem for people in Kiev, I suppose, is that they can short order thousands of these things. It's a lot more cheap. Standard explosives aren't that expensive. You know, you strap on as many explosives as you can onto the drone or drones. You could have a swarm of 100 of them. You could probably send them in tandem in formation and just absolutely cripple an entire neighborhood if you wanted to. It's a little bit like the Kamikaze deployment in World War II. The Japanese ran out of good pilots for the most part, so they would take their cheaply made planes. You know, but if you have to build them with spare parts or missing a gear or two, they'll still work generally, right? And they'd put all the new recruits that were willing to kill themselves on the planes to crash into the enemy. It's a lot easier than having new recruits that can barely hit a target trying to drop torpedoes on the ship. They can just guide it in by killing themselves. Only now kamikaze warfare doesn't involve a human being dying on the attacking end, which makes it a little bit easier for Putin. Because if he were to send in actual pilots to do this, at some point I think that people would complain, and you wouldn't have very many people signing up for pilot duty at some point either. So yeah. Kamikaze drones. A new era of warfare has begun. People have realized that it's 10 times less expensive to just put the explosives on a drone instead of trying to protect that drone and giving a damn whether it crashes or gets shot out of the sky, and instead of sacrificing a pilot in a massively expensive MiG fighter or something like that. Now, wonderful times ahead. Hopefully peace breaks out in the region so that John Bolton can go back to crepitating on his sofa. That's about all. Peace out.